Recording in progress.
All set?
Yeah, we're all set.
Call the meeting to order. Marion, can you take a
Sure.
roll?
Tim?
Here.
Rich Erickson?
Here.
Don Bunker?
Here.
Joe Truman?
Here. Did everyone get a chance to look over the minutes from draft last meeting?
Yes.
So, want to make a motion?
I move that we accept the minutes as they're printed.
Support? Good.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so motion carries.
Mary, can you read the first?
Sure.
Well, second first.
A request by Wayne and Marna Smith for a 15-foot east side yard setback variance to build a detached garage located at 12140 McIntosh Drive, Benton, Michigan, 48430. Parcel ID 4704 02102005. The property is zoned RE Rural Estates, reference Tyrone Township ordinance number 36, section 20.01, schedule of regulations.
Applicants, you want to explain your
Absolutely.
request or review?
I'm Wayne Smith, my wife Marna, been residents of Tyrone Township for 22 years. Just recently moved into the Applewood Estates subdivision. It's our third residence in Tyrone Township, and we purchased the property to build a detached building. I'm retired, a little more time on my hands, going to finish up a couple of the hobbies projects I had going. It's got a 3-car attached garage, but with just the cars we drive, that fills it up. You throw in yard stuff, Kubota tractors and gators and stuff, not space. So when we looked at the house, everything looked really good. The previous owner showed us what he believed was the property line. It was a stake in the ground. There was a pile of bricks that we used to build the house. He said those bricks have been sitting there since 2002 when I built the house. Planted that tree right there. He goes, that's your property line. I said, okay. Purchased the house. Wanted to get a survey prior to, but those things are hard to line up. Got some friends in the survey world, and I still couldn't get an appointment prior to closing. So we closed, and we love the house. Finally got a survey crew out there, and they surveyed it, and that's not the property line. That is, in our subdivision, we have what is referred to as a limited common element. It's between each property, there's a buffer zone for privacy. And going through all the HOA paperwork and everything, I can't determine exactly what that is. There's no definition for the width, but I do have my property stake. I know where my property ends at. And that stake, it appears, is at the end of what would be considered my limited common element property attachment. So that's 15 feet, and it looks like from there, there's probably another 15 feet to my neighbor's property. So it's just a buffer zone that's meant to be kept natural between each residence, just to increase privacy and everything. So all this time, he thought that was his property line. In turn, it's not. Where I want to place the detached garage is straight off the driveway. It would be, I guess, in line with the house to look proper. You know, it's just not pushed back or anything. The driveway is attached to it. And the way that I would like to locate it, that would be one corner, because it would be facing, the front of the garage would be facing to the west a bit, at an angle towards the house. That would put one corner of the building 5 feet from the property line, but would also be approximately 35 feet from my neighbor's property line when you figure in the limited common element. If you look at the packet, you kind of see the hashtag between property lines. That's what's considered the limited common element. It's very dense. I can't see my neighbor's house through it. I can, standing at one portion of my driveway, I can see the peak of their house and top of their chimney, but I mean, it's very heavy growth. They will not be able to see the garage I'm building. Received letters from two of my neighbors, the one to the east and the one across the street, that they did not oppose anything, and actually the one across the street said, let me know how it goes, I plan on putting the garage as well. So my neighbor to the east, which we basically share property lines or share the limited common element with, he's come today as well. He came over, looked at what I was planning to do. I showed him the stakes in the ground and kind of walked him through what my intentions were. He did have some concerns, and after discussing it, I asked him pushing it back further. I believe on the plans I have it 18 feet off the driveway right now. I said, what if I push it back another 15 or 20 feet further to the south side? Would that make you feel any better? And he said, he really wasn't sure. I completely understood that. I want to be a good neighbor. I don't want to build anything that would not be right for the neighborhood. It's going to be finished just like our house, brick face, same roof pitch, same materials used. It's not going to be just a pole building or a metal structure or anything like that. It's going to look like a carriage house, but it's just for literally parking my stuff inside, securing it. I mean, today they're calling for golf ball size hail. I got a relatively new pickup. I don't want to see how dented up. So just putting yard.
Just putting the belongings.
Just the belongings.
Securing it.
Just secure them. Yeah, I just don't want, theft is an issue right now. Okay, like murders that, getting stolen, gas tanks are getting punched for people that, you get $100 worth of gas, it costs you $2,000 to fix it. I can't even park my truck inside. So it's really just to keep all my stuff inside and secure, be very tastefully done. And there's two other carriage type houses in our subdivision, which are built similar to what I'm planning. No living space in it, anything like that. It's just strictly for storing stuff in. I'm not going to run a business out of it. I'm going to do body work. I'm not a welder. I'm not a machinist or a woodworker. No abnormal noises coming out of it. As far as the noises my neighbors hear, it's going to be the same thing they hear now. I hear my lawnmower twice a week. My weed blower, or my leaf blower, way too much time I use it in the fall. Stuff like that. So it's not like I'm going to be painting cars in there or anything like that. It's the highest point on my property without disturbing natural water flow through the yard and everything. If I was to move it down, it would actually impede and probably cause a water problem to the structure. I really can't go back a whole lot further than 20 feet because my lot does drop off substantially to the gravel pit road, if you're familiar with that. So yeah, it's kind of the right spot without having to put in a second driveway.
Farthest from because the septic field is in the back, but that is
On the west side.
on the west side.
This
so
would be on the
opposite.
east side. But we would probably have the less interference of the lot, taking down the least amount of trees, keeping all the natural growth that's there, and a good privacy buffer again between our two lots.
And did you get the letters from?
I did.
Yeah, we
some-
have.
Okay,
Yeah.
just make sure you had copies of it.
Any questions?
Bring it back to the board for any questions.
Maybe explain it. I was curious why it's angled. I know that one corner's 10 foot. You couldn't make the other corner 10 foot also. I don't know if there's a reason for that. Maybe I missed it. Maybe you explain that. I don't know.
The way the other two detached structures on other lots, I believe lot 19 and lot 11, they kind of have them facing towards the house.
It was just
And an angle.
recommended from the HOA to have it on an angle.
Right. The garage door is not directly facing the road. So, and it just, the way I've got it staked out, it seems like it kind of belongs there, you know, and it might have been originally built that way. We're trying not to make it look like anything's really been disturbed. By the time we get it all done and landscaped and everything, it just looks like it belongs.
What did the HOA say when you told them you were gonna be going into the clear area,
Into the, I'm sorry,
into the buffer area?
I will not be going into the buffer area.
We-
I'm on 5 feet
They're 5 feet.
on my property line. We can't build or do anything in the limited common elements. It's meant to be left natural. I believe the way I read it in our bylaws is the only way that you can actually change it if you and your neighbor agree, that you both want to mow right up to each other and have your lawns adjoining.
The HOA said you cannot have a permanent structure.
Right.
Yeah.
The limited common elements have to just be the natural buffer. You
Right.
can't build anything.
And by limited, I can go on it and whatever blow leaves into it. My neighbor can, that shares that limited common element, can do the same. But neighbors around, it's not like an easement, like for the power company. They couldn't, you know, put a trail through it to the gravel pit road or anything like that. It's for myself and my neighbor to enjoy the separation. So,
The reason I'm confused, I didn't go onto the property, but I looked at it from above. On the drawing, the
Approach.
red dotted line, I thought was it. Yes.
right dotted line is the building envelope, the original building envelope that the HOA put in place for
Well, the development.
your developer put in
Okay.
place for the actual homes to be built in. This would be for the whole development.
I do have that.
Okay, so each one's got what they consider to be the building envelope where they would like a house to be put. And I believe you could, by approaching the developer, change that, but that was their
Oh, okay, I see.
design intention. So no, the actual exterior line is the
Mhm.
property line.
Yeah. Oh. The ones for,
The limited common element, it was hard for me to actually get any information on it. I had to do research on limited common elements in general, and then try to figure out what ours was. Like I said, nowhere in our HOA does it actually give a foot distance, so you just have to go by where your property line is, where your neighbor's property line is. That area in between is limited common element, split it. And the best we can figure is probably 15 feet for each of us, so 30 feet. Plus the 5 foot that I'm asking to be off my property line would still put us at 35 feet from his property, from my east side neighbor's property line.
Gotcha.
open to the public, any? Yes.
Hi, my name is Sean Orsel. I live at 12164 McIntosh Drive, which is next to the property. I live there with my wife and my son. We've been living there for about 10 years. We bought the property from the original owner, Peter. I just want to talk a little bit about this, if you don't mind. So first, I just want to say, before moving here, we lived in Fenton, and I served on the planning commission for a number of years, and I just want to say, like, I appreciate, it's a labor of love. I'm pretty sure you guys don't get paid, so I just wanted to say, I appreciate the work, you know, you do get paid a little, just appreciate that, what you do for our community, and talking through these type of things and making decisions. And I'm not here to, I just want to understand So probably like Mr. Smith and his wife, the reason I moved there is because the homes are beautiful. Like, it's an amazing community to live in. This area, I'm not from Benton or Tyrone Township. We moved there about 20 years ago, and I've just fallen in love with the community and probably will die in that house. It's also, what is it called, rural estates. It's very private. We have great neighborhood, but we don't see our neighbors, and we don't hear our neighbors that much. And that's something that I value a lot, and most people, I think, that live there do as well. It's like being up north, but being 10 minutes from Benton or Flint. And as I said, like, the development itself is fantastic. I'm not an expert in zoning. I don't know anything about zoning, to be honest. I don't know if what Mr. Smith and his wife are asking for is normal, if it's fine. I'm just here to tell you, like, my concerns, and I will leave it up to you to make the best decision. I also, as I said, I plan to be here forever. I want to be a good neighbor. I know Mr. Smith was nice enough to tell me about his garage, to walk me through it. I appreciate that. I also, you could see that he really wanted it. It's not like something he's doing on a whim, so I'm not here to say, and the HOA has approved it, so it's not like he's not going to build it. I'm just questioning exactly where he's going to build it. So let me just tell you kind of the things that ran through my head when I read that this was going to be built. It was going to be built 5 yards or 15 yards different, 15 feet different than what is allowed, I guess, because that's what it is. The township has set these rules for building, and what Mr. Smith is asking you for is waiving this by 15 feet. So the first thing is visibility. He's right. For the most part, you can't see each other's neighbors. I can't see his building in the winter because there's the vegetation is mostly gone. And, where he's building this is right sort of in my backyard to the west. And it's a minor thing, but the fact that I could see it, might be able to see it, would be, like, not as good as it is right now. And maybe being 5 feet and 20 feet is no different. I don't know that. That's just the first thing that ran through my head. The second thing is the noise. Again, like, part of the reason we moved there is because of the privacy. It's not that I can't hear, my neighbor when he starts his car, and he could probably hear mine, or when I'm yelling at the sports on my TV, or playing music in the backyard. Being 15 feet closer might make that even more of a nuisance than it is now. I don't know. That is where my master bedroom is, that side of the house. That's where my patio is, that side of the house. The other side is my garage. If it was on that side, it might not be as big of an issue as it is on this side. Again, maybe there's no difference. I don't know, but that's something I was concerned about. The third thing is the value of my house. Part of the reason we invested in the house is because everybody wants to live there. And, I don't plan to ever leave, but you never know, right? Something might happen with my family where I need to move. And potentially having a 3-story garage close to the property might be viewed as a negative. I don't know, you probably don't know, but that's something that was a concern to me. The common area is also something I'm not quite sure about. What I guess I'm concerned about, I'm not sure if where he's staying, like, we just don't know. It's sort of hard to say, because it's like pretty wooded. And like, I totally trust him. If he says it's gonna be not in the common area, like, I don't have any reason to believe it's gonna be. But they're gonna build something, right? So how are they gonna build it 5 feet from it without knocking some of that stuff down? Maybe they can, but I don't know that. And that buffer is awesome. Like, it's not that I don't like my neighbors, but I love the buffer in between my neighbors. Again, that's probably why we all moved there, because you're sort of protected on all sides. Anybody that was crazy enough to mow your lawn up to it, that's totally not me. That buffer rules. And I don't want to see anything happen to the buffer. And then finally, we talked about septic fields. That's where my septic field is, that side. And whenever we can plug into a sewer system, I'll be first in line because I hate that septic field. I live in fear of that septic field failing because I cannot think of anything worse than having someone have to dig that up and put another one in. And so where he's building the garage is the buffer, then my septic field. And I don't know anything about septic fields. I hope I never really know anything about septic fields. But I'm concerned about when tonight when it storms and there's all that runoff, where's it gonna go? I don't know. Hopefully not on my septic field, right? Because that's what I really don't want it to fail. And yeah, I trust the decision you make is the right one. I don't really know if there is a right one, but I just wanted to, when I was on the planning commission, like sometimes we make decisions and later someone would come back and be like, why'd you do that? And it'd be like, well, nobody's told us, anything different, right? So I just came here to tell you what I think, talk it through. Again, I'm sure you're gonna make a right decision for him and for me, based on the rules of the zoning commission and the township. And whatever it is, I'm fine with, we'll keep, living the way we have been, I'm sure, and hopefully we'll be great neighbors moving forward. But anyway, when I saw it, those are the things that me and my wife thought about, talked about. I told some of this to Mr. Smith, but I wanted to think about it a little bit more, and basically I wanted to tell you that as well. Thank you.
Any others?
Can I respond to that? Just to clarify, I think he just misspoke. It's not a 3-story garage.
If I said that, I'm sorry.
It's a 3-stall garage,
3 stalls.
which matches the house. So, I just wanted to.
So, and unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to look at this. I normally put my eyes on these things, so I do apologize.
Absolutely.
The lay of the land right now, what is going to happen when this is there? And you got to have fall away from your building, and is that going to be pushing it out into that common area? And then is that common area something that's going to shed water, or is it all going to run over onto his property?
The property contours from east to west, so everything would flow down into my yard. My intentions are to, of course, gutter this and send it to the south where my lot line and his drops off as well. The back of our yards are very similar, and they just drop right down to gravel pit road.
So diverting the water off of this structure is going to be no problem to
It's
direct
not
it.
gonna go 35 feet over his yard.
Gotcha.
Quite sure that I had Dave Gordon, an excavator, come over, good friend, and just kind of walk me through what I need to do for this and check how much he's gonna have to work to set up for the flat work. And he wasn't concerned with it at all. He said, if anything, he goes, you don't want to go any further over, because then you're gonna start talking about a very tall footing, because my yard drops pretty dramatically
Gotcha.
to the west. He said the closer you can keep it on this side, your foundation's not gonna be as disturbed. So that's what I know.
And the only option you really have is to move towards your existing house on that higher area.
Well, I'm also, after discussing it with my neighbor, I'll take it 20 feet further back, which would, I guess, put it further from his bedroom. I'm not gonna be out there working overnight with any sort of body work or something like that. As far as noise, it's the same noise you're gonna hear now, if anything, less, because I'm not gonna have as much yard to mow and leaves and blow.
But there is enough space to go, because it's real flat where that little jog comes off the driveway. That's a real flat area and then it drops off, but we could go
Push it
farther
back towards the drop off, right, that's the 20 feet I was talking about. So push it south 20 feet, I think on the plans here, it shows it 18 feet off the end of the apron. I would go like another 15 or 20 feet.
And could push it back so it's more not next to the house.
common element, they can easily do that without going off my property.
Yeah.
I mean,
They're gonna have to be careful. I mean, you're gonna certainly need to let them know.
But it's staked all along that side. You
Yeah.
know, when Spicer came out, they ran stakes down my side that I wanted to put it on, found all 4 like corner mount monuments, so I know where my lot lines are. I won't be going off my property, and I won't disturb the limited common element doing any of the building.
Yeah, and we appreciate the privacy of that.
Absolutely.
To comment on, because some people do mow, like from, I don't know why they, like, lose that privacy. I love it too.
You know,
I like all the natural trees and.
What foundation is this a pole frame building or?
No, it will be a stick-built garage, just like the one attached to the house. I can show you the plans if you'd like.
No, that's fine, I just.
Yeah, no, it will look just like my house. Actually, talking to my neighbor, Sean, I had the plans call for 1 window on the east side. I said, if you think you're gonna be able to see this, or you're afraid of light coming out or whatever, I'll take the window off the east side. I'll do whatever I can to accommodate you, but you've really gotta be looking, even when the leaves are down, to see each other's houses. It's pretty dense in there.
If you move it back, do you have to keep the same angle?
You know, I can change the angle if that's the point of contention, you know.
No.
We
I
can
was
discuss
going-
it with the HOA and
Yeah,
see
I
if
was
it's
going with
recommended.
Well,
current.
and then the HA, they approved this, that, you know, they haven't approved another 15 feet.
They've approved for the structure, and they just recommended that they wanted it to be on an angle, because the other buildings are on, the other detached garages. I guess they have that uniformity in the subdivision, maybe? The other ones
Yeah,
are at angles, and that was.
Discussing with them, it didn't sound like it was gonna be an issue at all, pushing it further back.
Yeah.
You're basically doing the same thing, you're just gonna have a longer approach to it. So it didn't sound like that was gonna be an issue at all, but.
And if it's farther back, then the garage doors aren't as visible from the road, so that probably would not be an issue.
Straight out.
I think that most of the issue that I personally see is not necessarily the position of the house, where it faces, or any of that kind of stuff. I'm more concerned about the setback.
Right.
And being only 5 feet from the lot line, I wouldn't like to, personally, I wouldn't want to set precedents for other people to move their homes so they're 5 feet away from the lot line. And I'm kind of personally wondering why we can't just shove it over a little bit. I realize that the topographical map here shows that you've got about a 6-foot drop. Did you see that?
Yes.
But there are other people who have similar situations in the future.
Absolutely, and if it was a true 5 foot from his property line, if he was gonna be 5 feet away from the corner of my garage, you're right, I would feel the exact same way. But truly, his property line is 35 feet from my property line with the limited common element, which is almost double what the 20-foot offset from the property line is in normal lots where you own up to your property line and they own right past that stake the rest of the way. So if I thought that he was going to, if his septic field was 5 feet away from the corner of my building, yes, I would have concerns then as well, but it's going to be 35 feet from the corner of my building. Requested building. And I don't know if this decision is made tonight, or you guys adjourn and make it later. Maybe he still wants to come out and look, and get an opportunity to, you're more than welcome to.
And, is there anything stopping you from bringing it closer to your existing driveway?
Well, it'll be closer to his bedroom more pleased for it to be pushed back. But either way.
I mean, into your house is my
Yeah.
question.
Well, that's where it starts to fall off. So now I'm looking at,
Oh, right behind your driveway.
yes.
I can't, it's hard to see, I drove by, but you can't see it from, yeah, I can see the hill, but I can't see.
Yeah, no, it would have a very tall foundation wall along the edge, which would be appealing. As far as property value, I can't imagine that, you know, it's getting very common right now that people want more than a 3-car garage. I mean, cars are bigger. My truck barely fits in the garage when I have an opportunity to park it in there. They didn't make too many extended cab, long box trucks back in '02 when this was made, so we've got about 4 inches at each end when the garage door is shut, so, no, it's gonna be probably about $125,000 project. It's not just a steel building or anything, it's gonna duplicate the garage that's attached to the house, and I think it'll look very natural there.
Where's proposed right now? How far over is the drop off? To the,
I mean,
West side.
it's sloping pretty much right off of the end of the apron there, that's currently there, and I mean, it slopes down into my yard from right there, so, as it is, I'm pretty much on about the only flat space that would allow a foundation that size without, again, having a tall foundation wall.
Well, looks like there's pine trees back there.
Yeah, I was looking to keep those, but
Yeah.
pushing it back is gonna have to come down.
Back to the board for.
I'm good with my questions. I guess you guys have
This is my first time here, ever doing anything with like that common element situation, so I don't know what I don't know what the precedent or what have you. I mean, I agree with what you're saying. There's a big giant buffer there, but there again, he owns right up to your edge, but it's not like you got a property line and you're both 5 feet away. There is a big buffer, so I mean, it seems like it makes sense to put it where it makes sense. Obviously, it sounds like you're trying to do a nice building that should complement the neighborhood. I don't see you going in there and doing something crazy. Obviously, the water, as long as you're not flooding your neighbors, but I don't know what that, like I said, I don't know. If it was just a property line, I would have to say that that's pushing it pretty far. But
Because there's really 2 issues he's asking for. He's asking for a 10-foot variance on one side of the building and a 15-foot variance on the other side of the building for the setback that's supposed to be there. Which is substantial.
I'm sorry, I guess I'm asking for a 10-foot what?
Your building's at an angle.
Yes.
Your lot line is at a specific line.
Yes.
One corner of the building is 5 foot off, the other is 10 foot off.
Right.
And the variance you're asking for is actually 10 feet on the front part of the building and 15 on the back.
Okay, the way it was explained to me,
Yeah.
they just told me how close are you gonna be to the property line, that's what you're
We were
asking
just basing
for.
the one corner that was gonna be the
Right,
closest.
I didn't realize it was
Like
too
two.
close.
that's the key one. The closest.
The 5 foot.
Yeah.
The
we could
The
get it
most amount
like
one in your request, yeah.
10 and 5.
It might be easier to accept if the building were square with the end of your apron there, and your 10-foot from front to back off the lot line.
A continuous 10-foot. I personally live in a neighborhood where I've got houses 15 feet away from my house, so I don't have the luxury of being able to not hear or see my neighbors. Completely understood. I want to be a good neighbor. I don't think I'm going to make any more noise over there than I make now, just doing yard work and, everyday life. I mean, I'm not running a shop or fixing other people's cars or anything. It's, I've got a classic car, I like to polish, and maybe another one down the road, but, yeah, nothing louder than I am now.
Car would be in the garage, not out the vehicle.
I mean, if you square it up like you're talking about, is it gonna push that corner off to where the foundation has to start becoming like, elevated, it'll be a retaining wall looking thing or something,
I think that when he brought his laser out there and he was explaining, when I look at it, I don't do dirt work, but the guys that do it.
So did Dave pick this location based, because I worked with Dave a little bit, he's a pretty bright guy.
Yeah.
So when he looked at it, he's like, this is where the building needs to go.
Yeah, when he came out there, nothing was staked or anything. I said, this is what I've got to work with. There's my septic field. We walked down to the gravel pit road, he saw the drop off. He thinks I made money. He's like, just push all the way back and have a basement underneath it. But, I've also got a setback at the rear that I'd be dealing with at that point. So,
Yeah,
when
because the limited common elements is like, goes
It's all the way
around the
around.
whole property.
Yeah.
Your front and back
So,
and both sides.
when he started dropping the laser, I didn't realize how much drop it was. I mean, looking at it with the naked eye, I thought it was pretty level, and he was like, no, you got some pretty good drop here when you start going to the east and when you start going back. And when I put my string up, because right now I've got a string, I've got it on a 2 feet stake, and I'm hitting the ground to get to the back stake, and it's a 2-foot stake as well, so it's dropping pretty rapidly.
Any more questions?
I don't have any more questions.
Board to make a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion, we approve appeal number 2, 15-foot setback variance.
I'll second that.
Based upon the topography and the approval from HOA.
Who cares?
I guess, and not to go any closer to the home or the property line, I guess. There was reference to being able to push it further back.
I think he has the same problem. If you push it back,
Yeah, it doesn't change the setback, I'm just making that. part.
Yeah.
The topographical map here shows that there's only a 6-foot drop for the first, looks like 20 feet. And I thought that squaring the building up and moving it to the west a little bit would be more appropriate to satisfy the neighbor a little bit more. And then it would also bring the setback a little further away from the lot line. But that's a different motion.
Yeah.
So, is the same motion gonna
Yes.
stand? Okay,
Motion,
she
yeah.
she can take
Remember.
a vote.
Is there a support, did someone support it? I didn't hear.
Yeah,
Okay.
Tim
Okay.
did.
Yeah.
Tim Scarberry,
I'm good with it.
Rich Erickson,
Support.
Tom Bonka,
No.
Joe Trollman,
Yes.
Motion carries.
motion carries.
Okay. And, read the second, the third.
You guys are all set?
We're
I'll
set.
get you a letter, I can email it to you, through a letter from them. And then,
All right,
Thank you for your time this evening, gentlemen.
Ready? Appeal number 3, or 2. A request by Dawn Becker Diedrich for a yard location variance to put pole barn in the front yard at 12767 Old Fork Road, Clinton, Michigan, 48430, parcel ID 4704 35400 The property is zoned FR Farming Residential, reference Tyrone Township Ordinance Number 36, Section 20.01, Schedule of Regulations.
Good evening. I hate doing this, so I apologize in ahead of time if this is not good for me. But originally, when I purchased my land for $1 for my mother, that comes from the Oak family. If you guys have been around for a long time, so this is part of the Oaks farm. And so when my grandpa passed, my mom inherited 49 acres, and originally Brett was at the corner with his wife Erica, and now they're next door neighbors to me. So, prior, we were trying to split just 2 acres originally, but because my property is 429 wide, I needed 3 acres. So back in 2002 or 3, we split it, and I started building in 4. Because of where my property was only 303 deep, it limited me where my house sat, because not only that, I had a 66-foot easement off my mother's property. So it went along the line and then went all the way to the back, because that was the only place that hurt when I built. So it made telephone poles along the driveway, my septic field, my tanks are behind the house, my well is in the front. So I had to have that 150 from the back, 75 from the front. It's at my house where it sits presently. Because of the lay of the land, because that was one of our alfalfa fields that we used back in the day. I have a walkout that also drains off, and I have Lake Becker in the front yard usually in spring. So as mom's life, our partner, who got sick, because of the care I was taking care of her, we split 3 more acres that you guys said yes, we could split, and that gave me more in the front yard. So because of the way my land lays, and if I want to put a pole barn up, because I have a lot of possessions, we'll just leave it at that, and I need space. So my option wouldn't be to put it on the northeast, because that is where my septic field is, the telephone pole, and I have a deep part that drops off. So hence the million pictures that you guys got. So maybe that would help you with how the land lays and how things are situated. If I put it to the northwest, I have such a swale that if I needed to drive my 5th wheel from one side of the driveway across the yard through the swale, I would be peaked. I can't assume that Eric and Brett will still be my neighbors forever. But my other option would be to drive down our driveway. But they may not live there forever. They may say, the next person may say, sorry for your luck, peace out. But not only that, I have to run the power all the way across the back of my yard and over to the other section that would possibly be buildable. So the reason why I'm asking for the variance is this would be up against the hedgerow, so the persons that purchased my mom's property cannot see my place. I can't my aunt, well, it was my grandparents, but cousins live there now. They wouldn't be able to see it. I've already spoke to them about my concerns. And the other neighbors that live next to us that were Claremont's house, they live before the hedgerow. So I'm trying to get a variance to put the pole barn in my front yard instead of being behind the house. That farming zone regulations state that it's supposed to be at the same level or behind the house. So that's why I'm trying to get that, and it's not gonna change anything. I'm not running a business out of it. It is literally to put my '78 Mustang, my 60-inch lawnmower. We have a 2005 Jeep Liberty. I have a 2013 Equinox. I have a 2011 Acadia. I have no children, and we have a 1995 CK 2500 pickup along with a 26-foot fifth wheel. So we need someplace besides and a tarp in the front yard, because when we sold my mom's property, there were some of the possessions that the owner that took that didn't sell when we had her living estate sale is in the front yard, literally. So I just need more space for my belongings. Usually that's a boy thing, because you can ask Brad, but for me, it's a girl thing. I used to work on cars. I have a degree in that. I don't do it for money. I don't even have time to do it on my own. That's hence the '78 Mustang sitting in the garage on blocks. But I just need more space to put possessions that I have and where they need to be in, out of the front yard, and look like a normal person living in our house. So I don't know if you went out and looked. I had red flags where it was at. It literally would be from our 60, well, it's not really our easement anymore, but our driveway in to the west is 35 feet off, and then it would be, 40 and 42. And being that we're farmers technically by generations, multiple by the Becker family and the Oaks family, that it's going to be that type of barn type garage. It will be a still built, so, and it's going to have concrete drive forward, but that way it gives us a loop that we can come in the driveway, loop around in front, go to the other driveway, back straight in to go into the pole barn.
How about,
Yeah, I got a question about that. Was it originally where you can't put a barn in your front yard? I mean, it's not a front yard. Technically, I guess it is. Is that for like when you're close to the road and everybody doesn't have a barn when you drive by? I mean, where did that variance, or where did that bylaw or law come from?
Depends on the zoning district.
Okay.
And the only zoning district that would allow a front yard location is FRRE. If it's 20 acres or greater, and it has 466 foot of road frontage.
Okay.
So other than that, it has to be a side or rear
Or
yard.
was it something, was it like a visual thing that they didn't want? Was that what it kind of equates to?
I'm assuming so. I'm not sure how that got adopted.
Because you can't see it, she's behind two
Right.
hedgerows and 3 acres of, you've seen what it's growing out there now. It's growing.
We like the weeds because the bunnies and the deers are out there.
Mhm.
And so the front, basically the front 2.5 acres of my property, that's the balance in 429 White does not get mowed. We had parts that we mowed because Mom liked to ride on the golf cart with my husband. And so that's the other thing we need in the garage is the golf cart, because we inherited Mom's golf cart for sentimental value. But that's the only thing that we mowed in that section was a path, so Mom and Gary could go drink a beer and go visit the neighbors and do whatever they wanted to do. So, but otherwise it does not get mowed. It's not gonna change any way that the land drains. It's still gonna drain on my property just because that's where it always has, even when we had no houses and we had cornfields before my grandparents passed. The way the land drains, that's the way the land is always drained, no matter if I put a drain field in or not, where I have Lake Becker every spring, that's where it's always been. And I'm 50, I'll be 55 on Thursday, and Mom's house was built in '73, so, I mean, gonna change. The traffic on our road is still gonna be the same. Husband and I going back and forth.
Anyone else?
Down there at all? And
No,
looked at
they
it?
said they didn't go out. That's why I have a million pictures.
Really, if you did, you would understand if you were standing out there, it's really the most logical place for her to put that park. From our property, from the other side, we just wanted to come in to tell you guys from our perspective as her direct neighbor, that's really.
I don't even really know why it's a big deal.
Really
It's
the most logical place.
it's where it
to put
belongs, I mean,
It
it's,
really is.
you know, unlike the last two that were here, I mean, you buy a property, you gotta assume that the other people are gonna utilize their property.
Yeah.
She wants to put 5 barns up, great, I'll help her.
It's the best
It don't
spot,
matter. I mean,
it's the
it's-
least intrusive.
Yeah,
the
I know
best
she's
spot.
nervous about this.
And really, they're the only ones that are at the same level on all those. There's 4 of us that are on the, well, cases have 10 acres. Their 10-acre parcel goes all the way back. They don't have anything back there. Our new neighbors, the tree huggers, they have solar panels in the back that used to be where they ran horses and that. But their house is way up above where my hedgerow even is. So they don't see it unless they go out to the back barn, which was a horse barn, but they use it to store their food. And then they're the only ones that are level with us. So we were originally the 10-acre parcels, the 4 of us. And then the people that bought that, the old farmhouse before our cousins did, they split 2 different parcels because he wanted to build back there and never did. So they ended up buying those 2 parcels that were still part of my grandparents' property.
Did we getting other letters from the neighbors? No, other neighbors?
No, I don't believe, no. Let me check. I don't believe I received any feedback on this application. No, it was just on this one.
Bring it back to the board.
Are you guys the neighbors to the east or
Last.
West.
west?
Who are you?
I'm Brett.
No,
Oh.
me.
I paid him to show up for moral support.
I'm not involved in any way, I just am more curious of the way this works. I'm applying for a variance, I'll be here next meeting, special meeting, maybe
Next
a week or two?
It's next Monday.
Next Monday, okay. I just want to see how it all works.
Thank you.
I was trying to figure out if you had a dog in the fight or not, so. It's a lot better than watching it online.
What's the distance off the, let me make sure, the east property line? You marked it clearly on, from the other property line, I was curious.
Our lots are 429 wide, so if you figure my 66-foot easement, and then you go over from where the drive starts, and go 35, so that puts you at like 100, and the pole barn's 42. So you still have like 300 left before I'm even to their property line.
Okay. Thanks.
Does that make sense? Because we're so long, we're wide Wiseman. I was short.
Yeah, just making sure you're not on the other property line, you're fine.
No.
The road in
I
between.
know.
Your driveway.
Yeah,
it's
but-
700 driveways right
Yeah,
there.
my driveway goes up to
This is-
my second telephone pole into the property. It is being a road toward my house. So that's why you ended up with the original that showed that I only had the 303 in the front, because it showed where I could only build. And that's why you have the other one, that's the latest one, and they are all iron staked on our property.
The property that's to the east of you, there's a, looks like there's a pole barn in there.
Oh, no, that's $100,000 horse barn, honey.
Is that what that is?
It's got a living quarters and a kitchen and a half bath. That's right on the 20-foot mark from my easement to that building that was built by Palermo's.
No.
That's where we store our vegetables in our fruit garden now. Just
board for a motion?
I'll make a motion, we approve it.
I'll say.
Vote?
Tom Strawberry,
Yes.
Rich Erickson,
Yes.
Tom Baca,
Yes.
Joe Troman,
Yes.
motion carries.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
So I'll get a decision letter ready, I'll get that to you, I'll let you know when it's ready, and then you can come in and apply for your land use permit.
Okay, yeah, because, they're not gonna probably be able to be ready to go by September
Okay,
because of how far things are behind. Is that gonna be a problem?
just so you know, variance expires after 6 months from tonight.
Oh, they're supposed to be starting it.
So as long as you pull your permit within 6 months, you'll be okay.
Okay. Yeah.
And can I ask you guys to sign the guest sign-in sheet before you leave? Please? Thank you.
You.
Do you have any unfinished business?
Well, we can do that when we
What?
adjourn.
Once we adjourn, we'll have a second.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Adjourn.
Thank you.
Meeting adjourned.
Turn that off.
Yeah, it's just about a, one of
Joe?
Yeah,
That's
meeting
just-
adjourned.
I got